Today we're working Psalm number 8. Now, Psalm number 8 is a gorgeous psalm, and traditionally it's used to bring in new customers. It's also one of the many prosperity psalms that we have, and it's also used for increasing self-esteem. And I kind of like that idea, so let's work Psalm 8 today for increasing self-esteem. When we increase our self-esteem, what all that means is that we are seeing ourselves as we were created. And so we no longer have any of those self-doubts and self-deprecations and things like that. And what that does is it opens our aura up so that we are more attractive to the good in our lives. The way we work Psalm Magic is very simple. We take the psalm in question and we read it all the way through out loud once without stopping. We call this an incantation. The second step of the formula is to go back through the psalm and take it verse by verse, considering each of the occult inner meanings that we happen to discover. And we see those little meanings, those inner occult secrets, as seeds of magic. And it's through this digging for these seeds and contemplating and applying what we find there to our goal that we are, in a real sense, planting those seeds in the fertile ground of our deep mind. And then those seeds take root and they grow and they blossom forth and then they bear fruit after their kind. And that's what we're going to do together right now with Psalm number 8. O Lord, how excellent is thy name in all the earth, who has set thy glory above the heavens. Out of the mouth of babes and sucklings hast thou ordained strength because of thine enemies, that thou mightest still the enemy and the avenger. When I consider thy heavens, the work of thy fingers, the moon and the stars which thou hast ordained, what is man, that thou art mindful of him, and the Son of Man, that thou visitest him? For thou hast made him a little lower than the angels, and hast crowned him with glory and honor. Thou madest him to have dominion over the works of thy hands. Thou hast put all things under his feet, all sheep and oxen, yea, and the beasts of the field, the fowl of the air, and the fish of the sea, and whatever passeth through the paths of the seas. O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is thy name in all of the earth. We start out by addressing the Lord. Now, in the Hebrew, if you look at the Hebrew of this psalm, the God name that they use is the Tetragrammaton, Yod He Vav He, when we're talking about the Lord here. But magically speaking, it doesn't matter because the Lord of the Psalms means the life principle itself. It's not a separate deity. It's always so important that we orient ourselves properly to seeing things magically when we're working with Psalms, not religiously. Because what we want is to have a connection to the Lord as the Lord is, as the Lord exists in reality, rather than something in our own minds that we're making up. So we don't want it to be an anthropomorphic idea of some sort of deity. What we want to recognize is that this is the real one power. There's only one. There's one power, there's one source, there's one force, there's one substance in all the universe. And that's what the Lord is in these Psalms. So the Lord has many, many different facets, and we'll go through those in a minute because it says, O Lord, our Lord. So it's our Lord. Now, when we say our Lord, we can think of ourselves as the collective of humanity, and that's a great way to think of that. And we can also think of our as a way of accepting our royalty, because royalty speaks in the plural. That's the royal we. So there's two ways that you can look at that being, O Lord, our Lord. How excellent is thy name in all the earth. Now, the excellent name of the Lord. So, the name in the Psalms means the nature or the quality of. So when we're thinking the name of God, we don't necessarily think in terms of what's a mystical name, what's a Hebrew name for God, or what's a mystical name that has some sort of special powers. We have to go deeper than that to actually find the seeds there, and the name is the nature. So the nature of God. What is the nature of God? God is the life principle. that's beating your heart right now, at this very moment. You're not beating your own heart. You can't start and stop your own heart with your mind. I don't care how many years you've practiced yoga. There's a force that's greater than you. That's the Lord. That's the principle of life itself. There's one life, just like there's one Lord. There's one God. There's one power. It's not a male deity. It's not a female deity. It's pre-gender. There's the principle of infinite soul. Infinite soul. So this Lord extends themselves as you. And you are an individuation of that power. And so you've got an individuality, and at the same time you are unified, completely unified and at one with all creation. It's a mystery of soul, mystery of spirit. There's nothing about who you really are, that the way you were created, that can ever be harmed or hurt, because spirit cannot be destroyed, and who you are is a spirit. The mystery of infinite intelligence. The name of God is infinite intelligence. The designer of this amazing universe, planets revolving around a sun, embryos becoming babies, seeds turning into forests. Infinite intelligence. Infinite truth. 2 + 2 is always going to equal 4. Doesn't matter how many committees decide to meet on that. Doesn't matter how many people vote on it. It's going to be what it is. And the truth of God is unassailable. You can't object to it in any meaningful way, because truth is truth. And what the truth is of God undoes any error. God is infinite love. Infinite love. There's absolutely unconditional love that this force has for you. Personal love for you. You are not only loved, but you are an extension of that love. You are an extension of that love. Out of an act of pure love are you created in the moment as an extension of love. God is pure law. The laws of God are completely perfect. The law of cause and effect is the ultimate law. So everything that is true has order. So there's no real chaos that can upset the laws of God. And to remind ourselves that the laws of this world are not necessarily the laws that we're under. We're under the laws of God. So those are some ideas about how you can contemplate how excellent is thy name. Now, in all the earth, not only is that true for this Lord of these Psalms in some sort of highfalutin idea of what a deity might be, some sort of exalted idea, but it's in the earth. These truths, the name of God, the qualities of God, are true in every single manifestation of your life. And unless you choose to see it otherwise, just the knowledge, just the understanding of that will start to change the way things manifest for you, because you are accepting the name of God as your reality rather than whatever names that you have projected onto the screen of space. Who has set thy glory above the heavens. So the idea of above the heavens is there is absolutely no end to the glory of this power. And glory is like the aura. Think of the glory of God as the aura of God. So the aura of God is so expansive, there is no end. There is no end to the expansiveness of this glory. Out of the mouths of babes and sucklings hast thou ordained strength because of thine enemies. Now that is a very interesting phrase. Now a lot of people think of out of the mouth of babes as being, wisdom just comes out of children's mouths sometimes. And that's true. And you can see it that way. And that's a fine way of looking at this. But thinking of out of the mouth of babes and sucklings hast thou ordained strength. You are a babe. You are a suckling of infinite intelligence. You are as a little child. You are as a little child to this force, and therefore you are taken care of. You are cared for. And God has ordained strength because of God's enemy. What's God's enemies? God only has one enemy. And it's only the enemy from the point of view of the enemy, because God doesn't see enemies. So our enemy, the only enemy that is of God from the point of view of us, is our own desire to consider ourselves as separate from God. That's the only enemy, is a thought form which is untrue, that we are insisting is true, and therefore we create an entire world based on that insistence. So because we have done this, because we have chosen, what they call that the fall in the Genesis story, in this very dramatic story, to recognize a psychological principle, is that we've decided to see ourselves as being separate and alone, separate from infinite intelligence. And so that error is the enemy. And so God has ordained that we are well cared for because of the fact that we have chosen to see ourselves as separate. We've chosen to live in this dream. We've chosen to live in this nightmare. So God has sent us our own care, the care that we need, and it's up to us to accept that care. Otherwise, we stay stuck in this nightmare. So we have to accept that we are cared for. We are loved. We have all of our needs met at every moment of time and point of space. And that's God's answer to our error of this idea that we're separate and we're all alone. So out of the mouth of babes, when you can start to see yourself as being like a little child, then you can understand who you are in relationship to this power, and that you are never left uncared for. That thou mightest still the enemy and the avenger. So that's the whole idea, is that if you can see yourself as this little child in relationship to the infinite source of all, then that's the only way to still this avenger, to still this idea, to this thought form that we are alone. What is man? And before we get off of that, that is self-esteem. Recognizing that you are a beautiful child, a beautiful creation. God created you perfectly. God didn't make a mistake with you. God didn't mess up with you. There's nothing you have to apologize for. You need to apologize for being this wonderful, beautiful child, right? But if you accept that you're a child, then you can accept the help that is always there. But if you insist that you're the adult, if you insist that you have to think all by yourself, if you insist that the only way that you can get your needs met is to do it your way and not God's way, then all you're doing is perpetuating the illusion, perpetuating the nightmare, perpetuating the dream. And you can do that. You're free to do that, but God just has to wait patiently for you to recognize who you truly are. And who you truly are is a babe. You're a babe. That's a good way to think of yourself. Has very high self-esteem. You're a babe. When I consider thy heavens, the work of thy fingers, the moon and the stars which thou hast ordained, well, let's consider it. Consider the vastness of the universe. Consider the perfection of the design of this universe. And you understand that that's barely scratching the surface. That's only appearances of this universe. Because in reality, this universe is so perfect that if you are accepting who you really are as you were truly created, then you are aligning with that which is called your true will, or the divine design for you. Because that design is so perfect, if you are completely accepting who you truly are and what your role here really is, then not only can you have nothing but joy and happiness, but you can have nothing but support and help for everybody else. Because if everybody's really doing what they came here to do, nobody's going to butt up against anybody else. It's impossible. Everybody's on their perfect course, and those courses do not collide because that was not part of the design. What is man that thou art mindful of him, and the Son of Man that thou visitest him? So we have to pull ourselves out of this cultural, patriarchal language to understand the mystical truths under there. It's not just man, meaning boys that grew up. It's man meaning humanity, meaning the divine child of the infinite. If you look in that one creation story, there's two creation stories in Genesis. One woman was created from the rib of man, and the other one, they were both created at the same time. Right? So the first one, where they were both created at the same time, that was the idea of how the Elohim created us. The second one, where the female was pulled out of Adam, that was, if you look at it correctly, it wasn't that there was a man and then there was a woman. It was there was a being. And because of the separateness of this world, the gender got split. And so that taking out of the rib is just the splitting of the two genders. It's not like there was male first and then came female. It's that there was perfection and then there was separation, if that makes sense. So in that regard, God in that story, in that particular story, was the ego, separating. So, what is man that thou art mindful of him? This is pondering, well, you must be somebody, because God's thinking about you all the time, never stops thinking about you and extending you as pure perfection that you are. So, if that doesn't make you feel better about yourself, I don't know what will, but God never stops thinking about you. So you can read this section of the psalm as like, oh, we're so lowly and you think of us. That's not how God sees it. God sees it as, I love you so much. That's why I made you. I made you out of love, and I want you happy. I want you joyous. I want you free. I want you to have everything that makes you happy. And that's all I'm here for, is to give you that happiness, because you're so amazing. And when we start to choose to see ourselves differently than God does, that's when we create these ego-based thoughts. And then our idea is, well, the only way I can differentiate myself from the way God created me, which is for some insane project that we decided that we had to prove to ourselves and to the world that we are different than the way we were created. The only way to do that is by thinking about ourselves in ways that God doesn't think about us. That we're less than, that we're not good enough, that we're separate, that we're alone, that we're poor, that we're sick, that we're vulnerable. So self-esteem is the natural state of your mind, because you are perfect. You were created that way. God didn't create junk. It's not just a pep talk. It's just reality. That's who you are, is perfect, just the way you are. And okay, so it says, what is man that thou art mindful of him? And then it goes into it even deeper. And the Son of Man, that thou visitest him, not only thinking of you, but with you. Now the Son of Man says the son of Adam. If you look in the Hebrew, the son of Adam can be seen in so many different ways. Some people like to look at the son of Adam as, well, Adam was created by God, and then the son of Adam, we're just sinful creatures, and we are so far removed from divinity that we better hope that God notices us one day. That's so far away from the truth of what this psalm is talking about. The Son of Man means the divine child of God. There's one begotten Son, means there's only one mind. It doesn't mean that there was some special dude named Jesus or something. It means that you and I and everybody else who's a human being is part of the same one mind, is part of that same divine child. We are it. You are it. I am it. They are it. Everybody's it. And this is the mystery of forgiveness. Because until we forgive the people that we perceive as being other than, then we aren't seeing the truth. And so this is why it says here, and the Son of Man, that thou visitest him. Until we are recognizing who we are as individuations, beams of light from a central star, which is humanity, then we don't understand. then we don't have any way of getting our self-esteem. But once you realize that you're part of you're part of the one child of the universe, that's the Son of Man. So the one child, it's all humanity, And so don't think of it in terms of Son of Man, meaning male child of a deity. Think of Son of Man as being the extension of light from pure source, of which you are a ray. You are a ray. You are an individual ray. We're all part of that one beautiful, gorgeous star. That's how God visits you. God visits you through who you are, through the reality of you, through the way that God created you. You're so big and so bright that this earth doesn't even compare. The whole earth doesn't even compare to who you are. The sun itself is dwarfed in comparison to who you are as you were created. You're that big, you're that big of a deal. For thou hast made him a little lower than the angels, and hast crowned him with glory and honor. Now in the Hebrew, for thou hast made him a little lower than Elohim. The angels are a collective. The angels are a collective just like we are a collective. We are a collective. So we're of the same fabric as that which created us. A dog doesn't give birth to a monkey, right? God created you, extended you as part of themselves. And so you're a little lower than the angels. That's all that means, is that you're an extension of that infinite perfection. You didn't create yourself. That's the only difference between you and God. You didn't create yourself, but you still have the powers of creation, the same powers of creation that God does. So as you create and you learn how to create using the mysteries of higher magic rather than this sorcerous attempt to project thoughts of fear, lack, guilt, separation onto the screen of space so that you can exist in this perpetual nightmare. Instead of that, we're learning how to extend our light the way God extends God's light to us and as us. And so that's how we have creation on this earth. We create that which we desire through the extension of our light, just like God does. And hast crowned him with glory and honor. That's you. You've been crowned with glory and honor. You're part of a royal family with everything that goes along with it. You have all of the accoutrements of being part of a royal family. You are royalty. You've been crowned with glory and honor. And anytime you don't express as that, then you're off the mark. You're not seeing who you are. Anytime you think of yourself as being less than or lowly, you're not getting it. You're not seeing things the way God sees. That's why we want God's judgment. God judges you as who you are. God takes, if you bring anything to God and you say, please judge this, anything that doesn't look like glory and honor with you, God says, that's not true. That's not right. That's not real. Let's let that one go. Let's keep the truth here. Thou hast madest him to have dominion over the works of thy hands. Thou hast put all things under his feet. So that's who you are. You were an extension, and while you're walking on this earth, you have dominion over this earth. You have dominion over this earth, and you don't act like it, so you don't see that. Right? That's what we do. We act like we're just victims here, but in reality, we have dominion. So we have to start accepting our role. And then we have dominion over this world. How do you have dominion over the world? Not by dominating it, but by being yourself, by extending your light the way God extends light as you. That's how you have dominion, by being who you are. It doesn't take any effort. It doesn't take any effort. You just have to learn how to see yourself as something that's very different than what you're accustomed to seeing yourself as being. You are, according to the Psalms, a God. You are a God. Just like we said, a dog doesn't give birth to a Twinkie. So when God creates you as themselves. So you are created as a God. So as you're walking along this earth, you are a God in the company of gods. And all these gods don't remember that they're gods. And then we wonder why we have so many problems, because they have all these godlike powers that they just don't realize. And so we basically are a bunch of people walking around like Aunt Clara, making all kinds of mistakes with our magic because we don't even know how powerful we are. Those of you who've never watched Bewitched, Aunt Clara was just somebody with, she was a witch that always messed up her magic because she didn't know what she was doing half the time. And all sheep and oxen, yea, and the beasts of the field, those are God gave you everything. This is just another way of saying God gave you everything. If you think you don't have something, it's because you're not accessing it. It's because you're not releasing it into being. God gave you everything. It's just a matter of learning how to reorient your perception so that you can start accessing all the gifts that are always available to you. The fowl of the air and the fish of the sea and whatsoever passeth through the paths of the sea. Again, it's all yours. Now, these things are symbols. These things are symbols. The symbol is that everything of the earth really pales in comparison to who you are in spirit, because spirit is much more expansive than anything that we can understand on this earth. O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is thy name in all the earth. You can just remember that phrase today or whenever you're working this psalm, and that's something that you can go out with into your life as a mantra. O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is thy name in all the earth. That means that in all the earth, wherever there's a manifestation that doesn't seem to be right, I just remind myself, O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is thy name in all of the earth. Remember, the name is the nature. So if I'm seeing that something is not godlike or godly in my life, then I can use that as an incantation to change that on the spot. And I just keep coming back to it again and again. And you can keep coming to this whole psalm every day, again and again, and keep working it until you get a sense of peace and certainty about whatever situation you brought to the psalm. Once you get that sense of peace and certainty, then you know that your spell has taken. And when the spell has taken, that means that the roots are established and it's growing, and you can move off of that and work on something else because you know that your success is assured. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I will be back with another psalm real soon. Until next time, blessed be.